With the authority of the Council, I shall now confer the degree of Doctor of the University. I now call on the Acting Vice-Chancellor, Professor George Carney, to make this presentation. Acting Deputy Chancellor, Clem Jones was born in Brisbane in 1918 and educated at the Brisbane Church of England Grammar School. He graduated from the University of Queensland with a Bachelor of Science degree and later completed postgraduate studies in public administration and municipal government at the University of California at Los Angeles in 1950s. After leaving university, Clem Jones practiced as a surveyor and a town planner in Brisbane, developing the largest practice in Australia. He was so successful as a surveyor that he had largely retired by 1956, although he continued his town planning consultancy for local government in the southeast Queensland for a number of years. In 1961, Clem Jones assumed the office of the popularly elected Lord Mayor of Brisbane, a position he held for the next 14 years. Lauded as the Patriarch of Brisbane, he was responsible for the upgrading of the image of Queensland's state capital to that of a progressive, modern city. As Lord Mayor, he devoted himself to fundamental themes of improving roads, sewerage and cost-effective services. When he was elected in 1961, Brisbane was only 38% sewered. When he left office in 1975, it was virtually fully sewered. He streamlined the electricity department and introduced a policy of underground cabling and of providing Brisbane with the cheapest electricity in Australia. When he came to office, most suburban roads were bitumen strips with unsealed portions on either side. Declaring war on the dust menace, Clem Jones light-sealed almost 3,000 kilometres of roads in Brisbane from curb to curb. As Lord Mayor, he also saw a complete upgrading of the Brisbane water supply system and put an end to the stringent garden sprinkling restrictions during the summer. Clem Jones's many other contributions to Brisbane included the creation of a magnificent new botanic gardens, excellent outdoor recreational areas such as the Slaughter Falls picnic area, a planetarium, new libraries, winning the right in 1974 to host the 1982 Brisbane Commonwealth Games, and a highly acclaimed innovative approach to land use planning and development that spread to other Queensland councils. One of Australia's most successful modern urban politicians, Clem Jones has been instrumental in shaping and reshaping Brisbane. His outstanding contribution to Queensland were recognised in 1975 when he was appointed an officer of the Order of Australia. Since his retirement as Lord Mayor in 1975, Clem Jones has dedicated his life to community service projects. As Chairman of the Darwin Reconstruction Commission from 1975 to 1978, he was responsible for coordinating the project of rebuilding Darwin after the devastation caused by Cyclone Tracy, as well as creating a Brisbane food bank, establishing the Clem Jones Home for Aged and Disabled, and serving as a life member of 16 sporting bodies in 9 different sports. He has also taken on the role of protecting the youth of Brisbane's southeast corner. He regards the Clem Jones Youth and Welfare Centre, a registered charity organisation sited on a 18-hectare piece of land at Carina, as one of his greatest achievements. More than 400,000 people use the centre every year, which has cricket, rugby and athletic fields, a baseball centre, the largest junior athletic club in Australia with a handicap division, netball, tennis and squash courts, a gymnasium and much more, Clem Jones is committed to solving what he believes is the main problem affecting youth today: boredom. He believes that youth idleness and loneliness, exacerbated by high unemployment and a paucity of leisure facilities, are the enemy of society. Through his Youth and Welfare Centre and the annual Crackerjack Carnival, which raises funds for the centre, he has provided hope for many of Brisbane's youth, allowing them a channel for their energies in new and constructive ways. It is especially fitting that the Council of Griffith University should honour Clem Jones in recognition of his long and distinguished contribution to the community. Acting Deputy Chancellor, it is with great pleasure that I present to you Clem Jones for admission to the degree of Doctor of the University.
I now call upon Mr. Clem Jones, AO, Doctor of the University, to deliver the occasional address.
Acting Deputy Chancellor, Acting Vice-Chancellor, graduates, ladies and gentlemen, it is extremely difficult to find words to express my appreciation of the honour which you have bestowed upon me this afternoon. I cannot but feel that it is of such magnitude that I can share it with the many thousands of people with whom I have worked in so many areas of community concern, some of which I would like to traverse this afternoon. It would be inappropriate and beyond my ability to do this against a background of academic knowledge and theory, but rather to make a series of observations engendered by a lifetime of experience, as you have so kindly mentioned, in varying areas of welfare, sport and community activity. It has been my good fortune to have been involved in the administration of 20 sporting bodies covering 12 different sports from club to international level, with executive activity within a number of welfare organisations too. Therefore, because sport and welfare play such an integral part in our social structure, that has determined very largely my views on society and the alleviation of its problems. Of course, that too makes me very, very much aware of the importance of the work done by Dr. Cuskelly, which has been recognised today. There is, of course, no need to argue the role that sport plays in our way of life today. It evolved as a character builder from religious practices and preparation for war to become an integral part of our daily lives, either by way of practical participation, as a recreation of observation, or as a field of conversation and debate. The emphasis on social welfare today plays a significant part in determining our social behaviour patterns, particularly in our personal relationship with others in different living circumstances. Regrettably, all these associations and experiences that I have had have left me with the feeling that somewhere society, in addressing its problems, has failed to look outside itself. There has been a tendency in dealing with most social and moral problems to place those involved in categories with designated characteristics which come to be accepted as inherent. From this comes the view that these people have predilections to developing these characteristics, which come to be regarded then as being susceptibilities. In some instances, of course, this is true, particularly in areas of physical handicap, mental illness or deficiency in general, though it is not susceptibility which results in deviation, but a man-made social cause. The root causes, such as unemployment, are beyond total elimination by an individual society. They are international evils, but the subsequent causes which flow from them can be addressed. It's worthwhile interpolating here a remark made some little time ago to me by a prominent Pakistani businessman when I was in Karachi. There they're building thousands of homes, and he was associated with that, the bedrooms of which all have en-suites for the emerging middle class. And I'll quote what he said to me in passing, of course. "You would not be able to understand the philosophy which prompts this program to eliminate our unemployed, because in your country you seek only to cater for them." End of quote. Of course, what we do about eliminating the causes of social problems does depend on the degree of seriousness with which we regard them. It is beginning to be acknowledged that in order to deal with the problems caused by unemployment, crime and other antisocial behaviours, it is necessary to consider why these things occur and how they can be dealt with. In the past, people have given lip service to this, but today I believe there is a real belief that that situation does pervade. It is necessary to consider why these things occur and how they can be dealt with. Both raise the anomalous question of how can the reason be recognised, how can the problem be dealt with, if, as many believe, it is that very society which we seek conformity which caused the deviation in the first place. Society itself and accepted social behaviours must always in the ultimate be suspect when those that do not conform are the subject of the attention of those conforming, who themselves established the non-conformity by their own failure. However, slowly but surely, the view is coming to be accepted that the responsibility for non-conformity does in fact rest with the conforming, and the task of promoting community services as alternatives to the behaviours resulting from such things as loneliness, frustration, boredom, isolation, segregation, alienation must be addressed by the so-called conforming society. Clearly again, the worst situation society faces today, and has faced for a long time, is that there is resident in a large mass of people, particularly young people, but not only, who simply have nothing to do with their leisure time. Some little time ago, the Queensland Government, recognising the seriousness of this problem and society's responsibility to do something about it, embarked on a new approach which aimed at involving the community itself in dealing with it. It set up the Clem Jones Advisory Council to make recommendations to government on a community recreation centres program and to do such things as were deemed necessary to implement it. These involved, among other things, I'll mention just but a few, finding the basic causes of each situation and circumstance which it seeks to alleviate, establishing the extent of the involvement in areas of concern, of private enterprise, privately structured community organisations, established public community bodies, private and public schools, local authorities and so on. Obtaining a clear and detailed knowledge of what is presently being done and by whom, and what is proposed to be done and by whom. It should be noted that while there seem to be a great number of so-called consultative processes in existence and proposed, many could better be described as conflicting or argumentative processes. Considering this, perhaps the final matter I'll refer to, as I said, there are a number of others, but I'll deal with what I think are the most important. Considering the big question of utilisation of school facilities for community recreation purposes. This involves consideration of questions such as whether there is inherent in the mind of a school child an attraction back to school after school hours, and if so, whether this desire is usually targeted towards vandalism and arson, which we find is so often the case. If so, again, whether and how such can be channelled into a desire to return to participate in community activities. This is further involved in the consideration of management structures and the question of how they control the outside school use of school facilities. In relation to the utilisation of school facilities, I might mention by the community, it must be remembered that while it is a great concept, it is a complex one, varying in nature and degree from school to school, principal to principal, and P&C committee to P&C committee. To ensure that these programs are community oriented, it is very desirable that they are self-funded. For this to be successful, the management structure must ensure viability. To ensure this, there is a very real need for trained people, particularly with university experience and a background of understanding in this area, to be encouraged into this field, to provide not only management expertise, but understanding of the implementation of it. These places must be viable, but not just on a business basis. It is an activity which requires organisation and management skills overlaid by compassion and understanding. The approach too must be a practical one. Every area is different and challenging. There cannot be set rules. Provision of spectator facilities, for example, is just as important as the provision of facilities to play the game. Watching and playing are both satisfactory and acceptable pursuits in giving people something to do. That, I feel, is one of the areas which is not generally recognised. People think it's proper that we should provide facilities for people to play, but it's people should pay for their own spectator establishments. That's not the way it should be, because it doesn't matter in our society, in this life, just what you're doing to occupy your time, provided it is satisfying to you and fits in with the demands of your community. It is vitally necessary to obtain an understanding in every instance of the particular human behaviours involved, and there are many variations in them, particularly in the disadvantaged areas, in order to ensure that the facilities provided cater for them. We so often provide facilities and then expect them without having regard for what is needed in this wide range of demands. Those working in these areas find that defining needs is not difficult. Sadly, they are all too clear. Determining which of the many ways is best to provide for each particular need is also a reasonably easy task. But convincing all concerned that these ways are the right ways can in many instances be extremely difficult. It can only be done, as I've already said, if there is a conscious acceptance of the fact by all involved that as it is the society's failures which have created the situations we are now charged with remedying. Our attitudes and our ways have been responsible for these situations. Our attitudes and ways must change if we are to remedy them, and to change fundamental attitudes and ways is always a big ask. The difference between people's abilities, their needs and their desires will in this new world become greater no matter what is done. That observation leads to the political aspect of it all. Perhaps it is therefore proper to end these observations with a brief aspect of the role of politics in it. There are masses of people, young and old, who simply cannot do anything. They are just physically and mentally incapable of doing the only jobs available to them. There is no simple step from the sub to the normal. It's a long, slow gradation. One is lucky enough to have a doctor's certificate providing a pension instead of a job or the dole. One is treated with kindness and respect. If one is marginally different, and there are many thousands who are, and cannot get a job, one is, to use a horrible term, a dole bludger. No wonder so many commit suicide. Without a Communist Party breathing down its neck, if I can use that term, the Labor Party has no one competing for it, for the votes of the have-nots, and has inevitably moved to the right. Consequently, politically, the reason to pledge support in this area must now be based on a different political philosophy, a true belief that these people are entitled to be helped as humans in need. They must be given something to do with their often enforced leisure time, not supported simply for the votes they cast. Socially, politically, whatever the area of concern, whatever the base of the pledge to help, the problems to be solved are incredibly complex. They have in many instances been made more complex by theorists. But one fact emerges clear. Science and technology will continue to create more leisure time, which must be occupied by acceptable pursuits which the community must provide. Otherwise, the community will suffer the consequences of ever worsening and ever more diabolical antisocial behaviours.